What's up? Welcome in. It is Friday, Junior. We're almost there for the end of the week. First week back, full at work for most people. Got Christmas coming up, holiday plans, all kinds of nonsense. So you may be at work, you may be at home, but either way, we're happy you're here. TJ with me as always on this Thursday, where we got some football to talk about, some football that's not going to happen to talk about. Some more football to talk about, and Atlanta just beefed up their bullpen. Actually got a guy I thought was destined for the Dodgers, and we'll tell you about that here in just a second. Feel free to comment along if you're watching along. We'll try and get as many of them up on the screen as we can. As always, follow us at Mike Arana Show everywhere but Snapchat. Hey, TJ, you haven't gotten to say this, and you created the line for us. How in the hell are you, and why are we not on Snapchat for the new people watching for the first time?
I am great, and we are not on Snapchat because Snapchat sucks and we're not 12. So how do you like that?
How do you like them apples, Notre Dame? Why don't you cry about that too while we're at it? This is hilarious. I'm going to continue to watch the verbal tirades tossed at each other from athletic department all across the country here. I don't know. I mean, we got into it a little bit last night, but let's start with Notre Dame. That seems like a good spot to start here.
I love this.
No, number one, do you have a problem with the signed MOU, the MOU, that says that Notre Dame is guaranteed a playoff spot as long as they finish ranked in the top 12, as long as it stays as a 12-team bracket? If it goes to 14, as long as they're in the top 13, then they're automatically in. Do you have a problem with that? Because I'm kind of interested, and I've been interested to see the reaction to that coming out this weekend. And a lot of people didn't know that. And some people are like, you know what? I think that's fair, assuming that they play a moderately decent schedule. Lincoln Riley, stop running away from Notre Dame. Or run to Michigan and you can play Notre Dame. Either way you want to do it, Lincoln, it doesn't matter. Do you have a problem with that? Because I don't, and a lot of people do.
I don't really have a problem with it, but if Connecticut goes 12-0 and is ranked in the top 12, are they getting a spot too? Because those are the two independents that come to mind when it's Notre Dame and it's UConn. So if you're going to treat Notre Dame like that, you're going to have to treat everybody else like that. This goes back into we need a policy for everybody. It sounds like we're too busy worried about teams' feelings and when they get excluded, and we can't do that and have an effective system at the same time.
Yeah, it's not about feelings. It's about winning football games. Maybe that's why Jim Mora left UConn for Colorado State. Now, when you were explaining that, I thought about it, and he goes, you know what? This independent system is not rigged for us. It's rigged for Notre Dame. I'm going somewhere where I can win. Maybe that was his thought process.
I mean,
it's a fair point.
Or maybe he's enticed by all the New Belgium brews that he can have after the game in the pavilion. I don't know. But I mean, those are the things that need to be thought about. We can't go making Notre Dame rules if we're going to not include, if you're not going to apply that to somebody else. Are you going to make a Florida State? They went 13-0 and got excluded. Are you going to make a Florida State rule? Are you going to make a Miami rule? Are you going to make a BYU rule? You can't do that. You can't do it. If you're going to do it for one independent, you got to do it for them all.
Yeah, and that brings me to something else. And I was listening to, and I don't remember, my apologies, future commissioner of college football, Josh Pate. I don't remember if it was Sunday's program or Tuesday's program, but he brought up an interesting point, and I think that this is not only a great talking point, but when you really think about it, I think this puts a lot of it into perspective. What Josh said he wants to see changed is he wants us to just be able to tell the truth. And what he was alluding to essentially was the fact that they need to be honest. And again, we're talking about transparency, so this all falls under the same umbrella. They need to be honest with what we're being honest about. Hi, Vegas Mac. Hi, guys. Like, what the hell is this? Are we two? I think, and to stay on topic here, I'm like, here we go. Somebody's hacked Mac already. Yeah, exactly. That when we look at the college football setup as it currently is, we know it's going to change, just like it changed after last year. Again, the example we gave, last year's format would have given Tulane a bye into the second round, and they would play the winner of Ohio State and James Madison in the first round. That's changed. I think we all like that. Josh's point is, let's be honest about what we're actually evaluating here, because when we evaluate the SEC title game and the Big Ten title game, they are not evaluated the same way as the Big 12 title game. And that was the example he used. And I thought about it a step further in my head. It's also not how we view the ACC championship game. And I don't have a problem with that, because let's call a spade here. We made our picks last night, and I don't remember... I know Mac went with the Texas Tech. I went with Georgia over Oregon. What was yours again?
It was Ohio State over Indiana.
Okay, so we've got Big Ten versus Big Ten. We've got Big 12 versus Big Ten in Mac's, and we've got Big Ten versus SEC in mine. I agree with what Josh said. Be honest with us and tell us that you're not evaluating the SEC championship game and the Big Ten championship game the same as you're evaluating any other championship game, because those are the two classes of college football. I know the Big 12, I think, is very disrespected in this process. I think the Big 12 is better than people think. At the same time, I don't think most of the teams in the Big 12 could play an SEC schedule or a Big 10 schedule and survive it consistently, outside of maybe what Kenny Dillingham's building at Arizona State. By the way, I feel like I don't have to say this again, but I need to say this again now that Michigan's open. Kenny Dillingham is not leaving Arizona State. Stop your pipe dreams. Stop your fantasy land everywhere else. It's cool to see Arizona State have a coach that's wanted that much. Kenny Dillingham is not leaving. Do you agree with what Josh Pate said, that just be honest with us and tell us you're not evaluating the championship games evenly, because they shouldn't be? Do you agree or disagree?
So I agree with his statement of, yes, tell us the truth, but I don't believe that that's the right way to do it in a sense, because now what are you saying to what happens when the ACC has 3 undefeated teams at the top in the top 10? Now what are you going to do?
Fair point.
I mean, because you know that Miami has that capability. We've seen Florida State do it. Maybe Virginia's on the upswing. I don't know. But when one of these other conferences reaches a level where, and it's going to have to be top heavy, because Cal and Stanford stink. So if that happens, now you have to look at this process again, and we can't keep revisiting processes. We have to have a rule that says X, Y, Z. And if we're following the selection criteria, then and these teams get in, then great. And if these teams are out in the cold, well, sorry, go enjoy the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Maybe Strawberry will win this year. I don't know. But you can't keep changing things. You can't. It's not fair to the system. It's not fair to the schools. It's not fair to the players. It's not fair to coaches. It's not fair to anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the biggest problem here that gets overlooked in this process is pretty point blank and simple. When we went to this mass chaos of conference transfers, transfer portal schools out of the conferences, and we shuffled everything. Number one, you have to play the same amount of conference games. Number two, you have to have divisions in these super conferences and make sure everybody within the division plays everybody. Then step 2 of my scheduling would be kind of like similar to what the SEC is doing. And they actually, it might be out now, I don't remember the exact time. They're actually announcing their schedule for next year today and putting it out today. And I think that's a good move for the SEC. I think a lot of other conferences should follow kind of suit. But the SEC going to 9 conference games, you have 3 teams that you play on a regular rotational basis. Those same 3 teams are your new 3 scheduling rivals. But we see this in basketball all the time, and it's given us some great games early here in the season. We have the SEC ACC Challenge in hoops, where we saw Duke and Florida play at Cameron. So, okay, ACC, SEC. Now you have to schedule evenly one game against an ACC opponent every single year. Boom, if you want your 11th game to be a cupcake, I'm fine with that. Give me 9 conference games. Give me every year the ACC and SEC play, the Big 12 and the Big 10 play, and then the next year you shuffle it. Even scheduling, even conferences will fix a lot of these issues. I think we're destined for a 16-team expansion, and I'm fine with that because in this year's format, I think everybody that deserved to be in, if we went to 16 teams, would have been in. Yes, with the G5 affiliation and Tulane and James Madison, who both got in and earned their way in within the rules. Let's stop hammering James Madison and Tulane for earning their way there. But if you would have went to 16 teams, let's say the G5 thing is there. So what are we talking about now? We're talking about Notre Dame, BYU, Vanderbilt. One of those teams is getting left out. And we still would have had a case there, but it would have been a lot cleaner at 16 teams. And I think that's ultimately what we're destined to see.
Well, it is what it is. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Right. And so if once again, and look, I'm 16 teams. I disagree completely. But Mac had a great idea yesterday for a system, and it was something that was feasible and something that would work.
Mm-hmm.
If we have the rules, let's get the proper rules and do it. It'll probably work out. Like you said, it probably would work out. Anybody who's hammering James Madison is complete tool bag because they're just doing what they had to do, and their reward is you're gonna go get waxed by Oregon. But that's what the system says. That's what the system says.
Yeah, it left us to some interesting positions here. And we're going to get to a couple of our bowl picks, and then I know both of us are excited about this. We've got a gift for all of you as far as bowl season goes, and as bowl season starts to diminish here, we're gonna at least, if this is the last iteration of bowl season the way it is, the Coca-Cola bowl season this year, we're gonna have fun with it this year because it's probably not going to look the same next year. I'm really interested to see that Tulane Ole Miss game because I've already heard it. Already seeing people jumping on the spreads early. I've jumped on a handful of bowl game spreads already. Mm-hmm. I know you have. The Ole Miss Tulane game, I think, is going to be fascinating theater. I know both of you guys are on the sympathy card and thinking Ole Miss will rally, and I think that's a very fair assessment. There's also the flip side where I kind of sit more on, and despite the players rallying around Golding and getting some of the guys back from LSU for the playoff run, there's just been so much chaos in that situation. Meanwhile, when you look at the flip side of that situation, their opponent, Tulane, John Summerall literally put out a tweet the other day, and he goes, I got 2 jobs, I got 2 phones, and I got 2 hours of sleep. Let's go. And the picture he posted on his own X account is split between him wearing a Gator and Tulane hat and a Gator and Tulane shirt, and his bio says, I'm the head coach of the Florida Gators and the Tulane Green Wave. Go Gators, roll wave. Mm-hmm. I think this Tulane team, not only is the 17.5 points, I've already taken that. I'm stalking it daily to see if it goes up. I will hammer this. I think Tulane is going to beat Ole Miss, and if they don't, they're gonna get it in there because in this day and age of college football, this game is the literal example of everything going on in college football right now. You've got Ole Miss missing their coach, pissed off that he left, and Tulane's completely rallied around their coach who said, no, we're going to see this thing through. I think that game is going to be arguably the best first-round game. I can see Alabama, Oklahoma getting real goofy. I think a lot of us expect Oregon to blast James Madison. I think that game is a prime over candidate, absolutely 100%. The Texas A&M Miami game I think could be a good one. I also think it could be massively one-sided because I don't trust Carson Beck. And against Texas A&M's defense, that one or two dumbass passes he makes every single game, kind of like Jordan Love, is going to cost them. So I think that Tulane Ole Miss game for me might be the most intriguing first round game. When you look at the first round, and obviously we'll get into game picks as we get a little closer on next week's show, next Wednesday night. But what's that first round game that you're excited to see the most here?
Well, the one that I'm excited to see the most is the Oklahoma game, the Oklahoma Alabama game, because we've seen it before. We saw it this season, and I think this is going to tell. Like, I don't know why Oklahoma was guaranteed a spot in this whole thing, because they didn't make it to the conference championship. I don't think they were that close, and this team has been so up and down this year with the injuries to Mateer, and like they got whacked. Did they get waxed by Texas? Like that was.
Yeah.
It's like, and you got this Alabama team that is coming in that has a chip on their shoulder. They at least made it to the conference championship game, and in this team, it just seems like it might be primed for a little bit of shenanigans as far as the fourth quarter. I'm sure that Herb and Raj are going to be in puckering mode once they get into that fourth quarter in this game, because it has the potential to be one of those games that turns on its ear a little bit.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, I think what you said is very valid, and this is part of the problem is people don't look past just general records at times. Oklahoma, as far as they're standing in the SEC, they finished conference play 6th, tied in a 3-way tie with Texas and Vanderbilt at 6-2 in the conference. So we're talking about a 10-2 Oklahoma team here. But, after the Mateer situation, when they rushed him back for the Texas game and they lost 23-6 to Texas, then they won 26-7, then Ole Miss beat them, and then they won 4 straight to kind of close out the year. But even that last game against LSU didn't look very impressive. Their defense, again, this is a team that defensively, aesthetically, from an offensive standpoint, they're not very sexy. Defensively, they beat your ass. I mean, it's Brett Venables in a short time fixing all the problems that we found out this year were left for him by Lincoln Riley and that staff. But they're a 10-2 team. And you actually brought this up, and when I was talking to Herb from Herb and Raj yesterday, I told him, I go, TJ actually brought up something pretty interesting in our group text on Saturday, and he goes, I tried to predict the 12 teams, almost nailed it. I had Alabama out, Notre Dame in. But when I looked at it and I go, okay, and the first thing you fired back at me when I sent that bracket out was, do you put BYU in over Oklahoma? And I thought about it, and again, last night when we talked about it, I think BYU is the team that has the biggest gripe here. You lost 2 games to a team that a lot of people think are going to win the national championship. I think that's where it gets interesting, and we talked about it last night. There was 6-7 spots where they had to adjust shit in here. And Oklahoma, BYU are interesting comparisons there. 6-2 in conference, 10-2 overall. BYU was 11-2 overall. Their 2 losses to Texas Tech. Would you have put BYU in over Oklahoma?
Yes, because BYU made it to a conference championship game against a top 5 opponent.
And I think that's where all the questions drop in. Feel free to comment along again. If you're watching along, we'll get as many of them up on the air as we can. Speaking of bowl season, I know we're excited to see this. I know in the McKenzie house, they're excited to see this. The bucked up LA Bowl hosted by Gronk, or however we're supposed to actually say it. Well, you don't have to worry about it because it will not be on the bowl schedule after Saturday's game between Boise State and Washington. One fewer game on the bowl schedule next year as the bucked up LA Bowl will be no longer. And a lot of this has to do with uncertain future of the bowl game scenario. And I think this is not only going to be, isn't going to be the only one we see that drops off the table here. Again, I'd like to see college football go to a players era invitational kind of thing. We know the money that's tied in for these schools and these conferences through the current college football playoff system. I'd like to see, and I don't really care about the LA Bowl. when we talk about the next set of bowls, and I think this is the interesting thing because this is where the gap goes between people. I love bowl season. I love the games like one of my favorite games I talked about with Mac on Tuesday is and I can't remember which bowl game it is, but it's the name of it. But it's Western Michigan and Kennesaw State. That's a game between two very good teams who won their conference championships, and outside of a couple of your high level players maybe getting poached by another school in the transfer portal, we're going to see both of those teams almost at full strength. So when we talk about the bowls that would be fitting, if you will, for a, and let's use this term just so it's understandable, for a players era postseason tournament or like an NIT essentially, but you have to have the money into it so you don't get, I mean, we're getting robbed as college football fans. The Jeremiah Love is not going to run another college football again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
100%.
You give me that tournament and we don't have to take the crap bowls here. Let's take the Cheez-Its Bowl. Let's take the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Let's take the Holiday Bowl. Let's take the Sun Bowl, which is always a very good game. Let's take some of those bowls, put it into a postseason tournament that entices these guys to actually play one more game. Contracts, what a concept. If we're running this like professional sports now, and there's salary allotments and everything else, you come to play at our school, you sign your contract, you are playing until our season is completed or you do not get paid in full. Why nobody thought of that starting is beyond me. We're seeing the LA Bowl drop off. The Bahamas Bowl's already gone. I think it's the Bush's something beans bowl now. They're not going to dump a bucket of beans on the coach, so Duke's Mayo still keeps that. I think we're probably going to see half a dozen of these bowls not on the schedule next year, and that sucks, but in the way we're doing things, it makes a lot of sense too.
It does suck. And you know what else sucks is the bowl games used to be a reward for a team that did fairly well over the season, and you send them somewhere nice. You send them to Miami, or you send them to New Orleans, or you send them
the
to
Citrus Bowl, the Outback Bowl, all kinds of stuff.
Send them to San Diego. You send them someplace really cool. You give them some swag and some gear. They party it up. They do some charity stuff, and then that's that. LA, look, LA is a cesspool, but the stadium's nice. They deserve some sort of postseason game. It's always fun to come here in December. Would you rather come here? Or would you rather go to Boise, Idaho in December? I don't know. But it's unfortunate that game's going away, but I totally get it. You're going to see the bowls. Something's got to give. If teams are going to keep pulling out of bowls, why have the bowls? That's what it's going to come down to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I said. Like, I think at least 6 of these bowls are no longer after next year, and you can very easily, between, like you said, you've got. If we want to talk about bigger tier bowls that you could make some kind of postseason tournament out of, I mentioned a few of them: the Sun Bowl, the Holiday Bowl, the Cheez-Its Bowl, the Pop-Tarts Bowl, the Outback Bowl. Take one of the stadium bowl games, throw it in there for friggin' novelty if you want to. Mm-hmm. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see a bowl game up in the Pacific Northwest if we were to get to this kind of system. Give me a bowl game up at Lumen Field in late December, early January, whatever the hell the case may be. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, it's something we'll continue to talk about. We'll get into game predictions on next week's show. A couple other headlines here before we get into what we've got cooked up our sleeves or non-shirt sleeves for bowl season for you. Steelers pass rusher TJ Watt has been put into a local hospital for further lung evaluation after experiencing discomfort at the practice facility on Wednesday. His status for Monday night's game against the Dolphins is in question. He is not practicing today. His lung injury occurred during treatment at the team facility on Wednesday. Watt's been hospitalized since then. The Players Association's aware of the situation, been in touch with Watt. Kind of a scary story to see on this Wednesday morning. Hopefully it's just something basic that he can get through quick, because obviously with the Steelers in the position that they're in right now, leaders of the North, TJ Watt, one of the best defensive players in the game, period, probably going to go down as one of the better defensive players of all time. You're starting to see, and we saw it last week with the way the Steelers game ended, the big play from Highsmith Watt's starting to get back to the one-handed strip sacks and everything here. So again, hopefully this is not something that keeps him out much longer than Monday, period. But when you're talking about just a treatment lung type of injury that was discovered, obviously it's a scary situation for the Steelers.
Yep. I mean, that's you go at that point, you just go beyond the sport part out of this whole thing and just hope the guy can recover and be okay, period. So this
Mm-hmm.
is scary. I mean, but then when you get to the real life of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, they have a one game lead in the division. The Ravens are going to do everything they can to try and get back into first place. And, you know, Pittsburgh's in a spot. They're for sure in a spot.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, thoughts and best well wishes out to TJ Watt there, and hopefully that's just a minor blip on the radar. Final headline we've got today: Robert Suarez led the National League in saves in 2025 with the Padres with 40. He's now going to be setting up Raisel Iglesias in Atlanta as the Braves ink him to a 3-year, $45 million deal. Interesting to see this one, T, because Suarez was a guy that a lot of people already had pegged and linked to the Dodgers, and basically 1 foot there. It would have made a lot of sense. Kind of guy the Dodgers, really like in those positions. And Atlanta goes in. And I think Atlanta, and we talked about this towards the end of last year, I think Atlanta's an interesting team to watch here because we know they're pretty damn good when they're healthy. Obviously, they have one of the better players, if not the best player in all of baseball, in Ronald Acuna Jr., up for debate, obviously. But, when we look at this, I think it's an interesting approach from the Braves. I think going through Suarez and Iglesias at the back end of that Braves bullpen, assuming that they're getting a healthy Spencer Strider and some of their other guys back when they're due, I think Atlanta's an interesting team to kind of keep an eye on here because as the Mets seemingly are stripping it down and rebuilding it from the inside out, Philly, we don't know what's going to happen. And we know Atlanta healthy is still in the mix. I think this is a fantastic move for the Braves. And thank you for keeping them away from the Dodgers.
Love this move for the Braves. I think it's a smart move. We've talked about it before, man. You shorten the games, you're going to be more prone to win more of these games. If you have the seventh inning guy, the eighth inning guy, the ninth inning guy, as much as it takes away from the tradition of pitchers throwing complete games, shorten that game, get that bullpen, get a really good bullpen, and that's going to be more W's for you. This is a great move. Plus, I mean, Suarez was basically he was expendable because San Diego's probably going to go with Mason Miller in the closing role. So they've got him under control for 3 more years, 4 more years. It was a good move for both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. The Orioles made the big splash yesterday, signing Pete Alonso, and apparently they're not done because their name has emerged as a potential frontrunner for Marlins starter Edward Cabrera. So the Orioles, much like the Braves, being aggressive here in the early part of this baseball offseason. We're also hearing a lot more names kind of floated out in the Freddie Peralta tying the Yankees and Red Sox, the two up at the top of that list. And obviously, nothing can be ruled out with the Dodgers, as we know. The baseball winter meetings are still kind of doing their thing. But we've seen a couple of the big moves. Obviously, Kyle Tucker, Cody Bellinger, Alex Bregman, guys that are still sitting there. A lot of the arms that are available via trade. But, we're 3 days into this thing here, and it's started to pick up a little bit of steam. Mm-hmm. The Braves in on Edwin Diaz before he went to the Dodgers. We know the Reds were in on Kyle Schwarber before he returned to the Phillies. The Braves and the Reds, kind of two interesting teams here, along with the Orioles in this, but we've seen the Reds' hesitancy to pull the big trigger here, which I think is sad because I get it. Like, I understand that Cincinnati and I understand that Kansas City and teams like that are going to operate differently because they have to. But at the same time, like, if you can't go from $1.25 to $1.50 on an offer, why are you even trying? Because nobody's going to take you at a discount, especially with the elephant in the room, T, that there could be a lockout after this season. So, guys, I think we're going to see sign a lot more of these 2 to 3 year deals and these shorter deals because of the uncertainty of a work stoppage after the season.
I'll take it a step further. I think that the shorter deals are better for the teams too. The last thing you want is So let's take Pete Alonso, for example. Pete Alonso is going into his age 30
Mm-hmm.
or 31 season. Is his production going to be the same at age 36? It could be, but it probably won't be. And so
Mm-hmm.
now you're on the hook. We're seeing it in Anaheim with Mike Trout. His production is not worth the compensation that he's getting right now. And I think teams are willing to eat that for a year, but when you're asked to eat that for multiple years, that is a tough check to write. And the other thing here is, why are we having these? If you have a team like Cincinnati or Arizona or Kansas City or enter mid-tier team here, stop acting like a small market team and trying to participate like a big market team. If you're going to play with the big folks, then you need to
Mm-hmm.
make it worth the players' while.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely that, and that's why I think we're going to get some interesting stuff here as it goes through. Another name to keep an eye on in the Freddie Peralta situation is the Giants. Freddie Peralta, Willie Adames, like the best of best friends, those two guys. So I think that you have to consider the Giants as part of that. Obviously, the Red Sox and the Yankees are going to spend more money than the Giants will, especially when it comes to pitching, since the owner won't keep his mouth shut in San Francisco and let Buster Posey do his job. Breathe, Michael, breathe. So it's going to be interesting to see how this thing kind of plays out here in the second. And Billy V checking in. I think I think the Belly Tucker thing is obviously the next step for us. But, again, and Billy V brings up a good point there. Anytime you're dealing with Scott Boras, every rule goes out the window. Let's talk about some bowl games. And I think it's time. I think we can do this now. Next week, next Thursday on this program, we are going to give you a Mike and TJ special, the 12 days of Bowlsmas. We're going to try and hit a 12-team parlay, as well as give you 12 bets that we love for bowl season. Those will constitute the games that start as of next Thursday night. If you do the math on that, obviously it takes you to the day before New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve is when this will finish. But we're going to give you our 12 favorite bowl picks from next Thursday through the end of December, and we're going to see if we can't go. Hell, we'll take 9-3 on this, but we're going to try and go 12-0 and spread it out over 12 days. Give you a reason to be excited about bowl season. But for now, we've got some bowl games that are going to take place in between this weekend and next Thursday when we do that. So in customary fashion, where we would normally drop a Saturday, which would be 4 of our favorite college picks, we're going to pick our 2 favorite bowl games between this weekend and next Thursday before we drop our 12 days of Bowlsmas. T, why don't you start us off? Give me one of your favorite 2 in between now and next week.
Let's start with the game that's going to go away next year. Let's start in LA. I'm really excited to watch this Boise State Washington game, just because I think this is 2 really good offenses. And we've got a team that's leaving the Mountain West and heading to a reconstituted Pac-12 versus a team that should still be playing in the Pac-12. But I like this game to go over 52.5. I think you're going to see Madsen go off for Boise. I'm not saying that Boise is necessarily going to win, but I think this Boise team matches up really well with this Washington team.
I agree with you, and I'm going to stay in that game for my first pick because I'm taking Boise plus 9.5. I think Washington, I love watching Damon Williams play. I love watching Madsen play. I think as you nailed it. I mean, the quarterback matchup in this one is going to be fantastic. It's honestly, it's one of the better quarterback matchups of all of the non-CFP games out there, if you really look at it, because obviously we still don't know some of the availability for the teams that are playing in bowl games. Obviously, Michigan's got a new coach for their bowl game against Texas, so a lot of things at play here. I think Boise is good enough to keep up with them. I don't necessarily think they win the game either, but I don't think Washington is 10 points better than Boise, so I'll take Boise plus the 9.5. Give me your second one here. What do you got?
I'm going to Alabama, and I'm going to take Jacksonville State plus the points against Troy. I love this Jacksonville State story. I thought them and Kennesaw played one of the better games past weekend, and I'm jumping on the train here with Jacksonville State.
I am going to stand in front of your train and stop your train in that game with the mighty men of Troy and lay the 3.5 with Troy. I think again this is another really good matchup. Um, that's the thing in bowl season is you got to look to these games if you want to see high level teams with good records. Yes, they played in small conferences. These are good football teams, and I think that's going to be a fun game. I do like Troy to cover 3.5 there. So again, next Thursday, we're going to lay it all out for you. We're going to tell you your layout for 12 days of Bowlsmiths with Mike and T. We're going to try and take you through 12 straight days from next Thursday on. Yeah. We're going to see if we can hit the 12 bagger. We're going to, I think 9-3. I think we can pull 9-3. We're going to try and hit all 12, but we're going to take you every day from the 18th to New Year's Eve there and see if we can't make a little pre and post Christmas money, which is fun in this setup. So maybe we find a way to do a 6-6 split. We're going to have a couple different ways you can play it, give you all the numbers next week. We've got Thursday night football. As I mentioned yesterday, the Bulls will be packed nice and tight, unlike Chipotle or some of my sloppy friends when I was in high school, if you get what I'm saying. Puckering season it is in the NFL, and the Falcons are in Tampa to take on the Bucks. I just see how it came through on our rundown here, and that threw me off. TNF Falcons at breakdown. Anyways, the Bucks 6-2 to start the year, 1-4 since. And it's a typical Tampa year, 2 seasons within one. Atlanta, Jekyll and Hyde, some of the guys they interviewed and they ended up with Raheem Morris. I'm not going to pin this all on Raheem Morris, but it hasn't been what any of us expected it to be when he was given that job. Michael Penix going out, Kirk Cousins in prime time. There's an angle there, but at the same time, Kirk Cousins' average last year against Tampa Bay in the 2 games that he played against them was 392.5 yards passing per game, 8 touchdowns to 1 interception. So Kirk Cousins very much knows this offense. He's got arguably the most dynamic offensive player in the league behind him in Bijan Robinson. No Drake London tonight. We've got a couple of interesting ways to do this. The Bucks very much like the Eagles to me, T. I know the injuries, they're expected to get worse, and McMillan and Godwin back, or in Evans back tonight. Godwin came back again a few weeks ago. What we see out of Evans, who knows? But him being back on the field, I think, sets up some interesting plays for tonight. Part of me thinks I'm waiting for Baker and the Bucks to start really getting moving here, hitting a stride to the playoffs. Part of me also sees Philadelphia in a smaller form when I look at the Bucks and go, are they about to choke this whole thing off to Carolina? Or are they about to go on a serious run? What's your assessment of the Bucks right now?
The Bucks are the Bucks hit the bye week and all of a sudden went in the toilet. And they haven't looked good. Like even in the win against Arizona, they did not look good. The Saints always give them all sorts of problems. The Rams blew them out of the building. I didn't expect them to win at Buffalo. That's a tough matchup. I mean, Buffalo's pretty good. And they lost to the Patriots. Some of these games that they just haven't been great. Now, luckily, they're able to get Irving back. I think that's a huge part. But like when you get all these players back, now you have to perform. And you've got 4 games left. Your playoffs are starting now because 3 of those games are division games and 2 of them are against a team that's right behind you. The playoffs for the Bucks start tonight.
Yeah, they really do. I mean, they've got a game at Carolina, as you alluded to, game at home against Carolina, and then they have a game at Miami, and this Miami team's got a kind of a second wind and a second bit of life here. You know, whether that game means anything for Miami, I don't know, but I also see Miami finishing this thing strong because of all the outside noise that they've had to deal with. And I honestly think Mike McDaniel might have saved his job. He might get another year here. I don't know. It's going to be interesting because you bring in somebody new to run football operations and oversee football on the field. Maybe he decides, hey, let's give Mike a fighting chance here. So it's definitely set up for Tampa. And we know with Carolina plays their better football against better teams.
Yes.
Carolina still has a game with Seattle. I mean, I think I'm really excited. And if you missed last night's show, I'll revisit this just for a second. I think, honestly, there's only 8 teams that can win a Super Bowl this year. There's still 23 teams alive for the playoffs. I think there's only 8 teams that we need to talk about. In the NFC, it's San Francisco, it's Los Angeles, and it's Philadelphia. I'm also going to throw Seattle in there because of their defense. My concern with the Seahawks is if they can or cannot limit turnovers in the postseason. That's the thing I think that derails the Seahawks. But that defense will win them probably at least one playoff game. In the AFC, I think you've got Denver, New England. No, not Denver, New England. Denver I'll throw in there because of their defense, as I will Houston. Don't trust either offense very well. And the only other team in the AFC that I think can win the Super Bowl is the Bills. This stretch of these final 4 games that we've got with everything that's still to be decided. I mean, when you have the 7th seed in the NFC that can be the 1 seed in one weekend, and vice versa, we're set up for a crazy finish here, and Tampa's right in the middle of all of that. I think we get an absolutely full 1,000% focused effort out of the Bucs. They are getting healthier. The guys they are getting back are significant contributors to their offense and their offensive production. So, how do we play the game? Well, I'm going to start because I think we're going to get that focused effort from the Bucs tonight. Totally locked in. I played it last night, 4.5. It's up to 5.5 today. I still like the number at 5.5. I think that we get a full focused effort out of the Bucs. So that's my first one for tonight's triple option. Tampa Bay -4.5. Also will play them at -5.5.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think Tampa Bay is going to be Tampa Bay they're in must-win mode. They have to hold the Panthers off, and I think that game next week is going to be incredible when they play the Panthers. That's going to be one of those Week 16 games that's going to be must-watch. But you got to get there first, and you got to get there with a W tonight. I've got Emeka Egbuka with an anytime touchdown.
I like it. I messed around with a couple of exotic plays for tonight's game, too. I saw a couple of angles here. I'll stick with Emeka Egbuka, and I think just the presence of Mike Evans back on the field, Bucky Irving also on the field, Tristan Wirfs. There's a lot of attention that's got to be paid to a lot of spots. Chris Godwin, Cade Otton, a lot of spots on this offense. Egbuka, last few weeks haven't been great for him. A lot of that has to do with just the way the team's playing in general. A lot of that has to do with how banged up Baker Mayfield is. I don't think that's being talked about enough. Like, the dude is beat up on all sides of his body, like he typically is at this time of year. I think Egbuka has a huge game tonight. AJ Terrell, outside of like a play where he lost Jackson Smith and Jigba, was on one hell of a streak of not giving up touchdowns to receivers he's covering. But hopefully, for Tampa's sake, they can keep Godwin and Evans on the field, because at the beginning of the year when Evans was there, Egbuka really had some great games at the beginning. So I think just Evans being there will help. I think also having Godwin there. So Emeka Egbuka, and this number's actually dropped down, I noticed, on one of the sites today. His over-under tonight is 46.5 rushing or receiving yards. I played it over 48.5, so it's gone down a little bit. I think even more value. I think the openings for Egbuka tonight are going to be huge. So I also did play an anytime TD from him. Give me your second one.
I'm going to my favorite pull here. Your idiot kicker who got all liquored up last night. I'm taking Chase McLaughlin over 7.5 points. So I knew you'd be thrilled with that.
Whatever's wrong with me is worse than watching a Browns game right now. That's how shitty I've felt for 2 weeks. I love the play. We talked about this in the group text message. Mac loves to give me... You two have given me 2 of the most annoying bets that I now bet because of the 2 of you, and I hate it. Pitcher outs, because there's way too much math involved in that. Because when you make the bet, you go, okay, 5 1/3 innings is what he's got to cover here. Okay, cool. That's basically 16 outs. We're solid. And then you forget about it halfway through the game because it's getting like pitch count looking. There's too much to think about. I hate the bet. The other bet I hate, there's nothing to think about is the kicker bets. So I need to come up with the bet that both of you guys need to fall in love with now that annoys the hell out of you. And I'm thinking somewhere like blocked shots in hockey.
Love it.
Because that's so subjective. And the other one, steals and blocks combos in the NBA. I'm gonna sick you guys on one of those ones there. Because when the kicker misses one kick, he double doinks, he freaking triple doinks, shanks one like I'm playing Madden and the thing moves too fast for my old fingers now. Like, it just pisses you off even more. And like you see a kicker kick a 58-yarder and he misses it, and I'm like, you sorry son of a bitch, you just missed. That's how we've gotten with kickers now. It's like, bro, you can't make a 58-yarder. What the hell is wrong with you?
You're not all Brandon Aubrey.
Yeah, Brandon Aubrey's, he's a fun one to do it with. If you don't have your brain stuck on, hey, he just kicked that from 63. So in fantasy football, I think some leagues that would be a 7-point field goal right there. That's what I see. That would make it fun for me. Fantasy kicker points would be a fun bet.
Yes, I 100%. I agree with you.
Last one for me. By the way, for those of you wondering, in our head-to-head segments on the show on Thursdays, TJ is beating me 8. He's 8-4. I'm 3-9 since we started this. I have him in college picks 10-6 to 7-9, but he's kicking my ass in this one. So my final play tonight, going back to the touchdown market, my favorite guy, one of my favorite players to watch in the league that doesn't play for San Francisco, Bucky Irving, to find pay dirt, and he is still at plus money today. There's still a couple sites that have him at like plus 110. Don't forget, on BetMGM, not a sponsor of the show, but you should be. An hour before kickoff, all the juice is reduced. So if you're an MGM bettor and you don't know that, there's a little tip from our guy Bill Krakenberger for you. So Bucky Irving for a touchdown. That's my final play. What do you got? What's your last one?
I'm going to go to a bet that somebody's going to go, I don't like that, but I'm hoping after it happens, I just yell, you like that a lot. Kirk Cousins over 0.5 interceptions tonight. If the Bucs are going to be dialed in like they need to be dialed in on both sides of the ball. So just waiting for one of those passes from Kirk Cousins to get over his receiver's head into the hands of a Bucs defender. But one of the things that you don't think about with this bet is if a team has a ball at around midfield and they throw up that Hail Mary at the end of the first half, that counts.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And then that's some of the other stuff too. When we talk about just like so many new people to recreational betting, quarterback rushing attempts, one of my favorite bets, because if you have a quarterback for a team that's probably going to win the game, his 3 kneel downs in a victory formation at the end of the game, those are 3 rushing attempts there. So you get a guy who's usually on the move, like a Baker Mayfield when he gets out of the pocket, rushing attempts. Yes, I've pulled the trigger on it. I also played this one. And I want to see if you like my wavelength here. We both talked about Emeka Egbuka. We both think he's going to have a good game tonight. I like David Sills of the Falcons to score a touchdown. You've got no Drake London. He's played 75% of the snaps. This comes from our guys at the Action Network. In the previous 3 games with London out, Sills has found the end zone twice with 4 red zone targets. So I like David Sills tonight. It's 6-1 to score a touchdown. I might mess around and go for a 3 touchdown play tonight. Sills, Irving, and Egbuka. Ooh.
And that's
spicy.
That would be good because that would probably mean that you're going to get a Tampa Bay victory, and all the Bucs fans would love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And feel free, if you're liking touchdowns, to make sure that you're following us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show, everywhere but Snapchat, because we're not 12 and Snapchat sucks. This week, our game of the week, our 3-way bet, we're going to go back to the touchdown market. I got a touchdown scorer last week. My 2 Nimrod co-hosts did not get a touchdown scorer last week. So we're going to try again because this is a game that Mike's actually good at. That's how we're going to determine what we do on Saturdays, because I can't pick a 100-yard receiver or a 100-yard running back to save my damn life this year. Any final thoughts from you? We've got don't we have a new edition of Hall Passes coming out this weekend too?
Yes, we are going to we are going to, I don't want to give it all away, but the $55 million club is going to be spotlighted this weekend.
That will be on Saturday morning. We're going to give that one to you nice and early this weekend. Touchdowns again, Sunday spread. Sunday night, Mac. Next week, we'll dive more head into the actual matchups in the first round of the college football playoff and get those all set up for you as those start next Friday night in Norman, in the friggin' cold, Alabama and Oklahoma. For everybody behind the scenes, for Vegas Mac, for Tejota on the screen, I will be back tomorrow, lunchtime live, same bat time, same bat channel. You know the drill. We'll talk with you tomorrow.